All women need support through their breastfeeding and pumping journey, and for some families, that includes financial help to better care for both mom and baby. Today you'll learn all about WIC, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children. It's a federal program that helps pregnant and postpartum moms and children receive the nutritional care that they need. Today you'll learn more about WIC programs and how they've helped lower-income families all over the country. We're the Boob Group.
I use a breast pump.
I hand express milk for my baby.
I exclusively breastfeed.
I use a nipple shield.
I breastfed after a C-section.
I use a milk bank.
I breastfeed in public whenever I feel like it.
I pump at work.
I breastfeed with a cover.
I breastfeed twins.
I give my baby bottles.
I made my own supplemental nursing system.
I supplement with formula.
I talk to my baby while I breastfeed.
I'm breastfeeding as a survivor of sexual abuse.
When I have extra milk, I share it with other moms.
We are equal.
We are
the Boob Group.
Welcome to the Boob Group. We're here to support all moms wanting to provide breast milk to their babies. I'm your host, Priya Namard, and I'm also the founder of the Moms Pump Here Nursery Room Locator app, which helps moms all over the world to find great places to pump and breastfeed their babies. And speaking of apps, have you downloaded the new Mommy Media Network app? This free app gives you easy access to all our episodes. You could also subscribe to our podcast through iTunes, so all our latest episodes download directly to your mobile phone. And if you're on iTunes, please leave us a review so other moms can learn about us. Let's meet the mamas joining our conversation today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your relation to WIC, and how long you've been involved.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on your show. My name is Kiran Saluja, and I'm the executive director of the largest local agency WIC program in the Los Angeles, Orange County area. I have been involved with WIC since 1984, and really it was breastfeeding that brought me to WIC. I had my first child in 1982, a daughter, and I was very, very badly thwarted in my deep desire to breastfeed her because of certain things that happened in the hospital and so on. So I went on this quest as to what went wrong because I was consumed by, guilt and all kinds of things. And I found the WIC program, and through WIC I learned so much about breastfeeding. I went on to have 2 more daughters after that, who are now 25 and 31, and each of the second and the third were breastfed for over 2 years. And it became sort of my life ambition and really like a passion that no mother should have to not be able to reach her goals with breastfeeding. And especially the moms we work with in the WIC program. When I came to this country, I could speak English, I was educated, I could hold my own, and I still wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. So I realized this is a really big deal, and we need to make this happen for all moms. So I'm happy to tell you that I now am the grandmother to 2 little girls who are a little over a year old, and they have been exclusively breastfed through the neonatal intensive care unit, and are still being breastfed by their mother, my eldest daughter, the one who wasn't breastfed. So it's just a really, I feel so proud every day of everything that we do here, my staff does, how many moms we help. It's a great, great passion.
Hi, I'm Donna Bister. I'm the state WIC director from Vermont and also the chair of the National WIC Association. I'm stepmom to 2 awesome adults and Grammy to 5 tweens and teens. I grew up in a large extended family that could have used WIC when we were little. As my mom always said, it's a great program. I wish we had it when you were little. I started working for WIC as a clerk in a local agency just shortly after the program started, and I've been with WIC all of my adult working life. I found that it's an awesome place to work because it really makes a difference, and I'll stay here until I'm done working.
All right, and I'm Sunny. I'm producing today's show, and I've got 4 kids of my own, ages 6, 4, and I've got twins that are turning 3 next month. I don't have any personal experience using WIC programs, but certainly glad that their services are available to moms, and that's one of the main reasons we want to do this episode today, just to make sure that everyone is aware and can participate if it's applicable to you. So happy to be here and to be involved in the conversation.
And I'm your host, Priya, and I also have 3 kids. My oldest is now 14, my middle child is 12, and my youngest is 8, and I breastfed and breast pumped. Did I say that weird?
8. It's not a good age, or what?
I breastfed and breast pumped and supplemented for all 3 of them. Liam, my youngest, I breastfed him for 3 years. And I also happened to use WIC for my first child, Jaden, 14 years ago. And it was a huge help to my family. And I'm so excited to have this conversation today.
All right, So before we get started with our conversation today, I did want to talk about a headline, and I realize that this is controversial. And it's so controversial, in fact, that we really did debate whether or not we should talk about it. But this is over bed sharing. Okay, so real quick explanation. So sometimes these terms are used interchangeably, but there is co-sleeping and there's bed sharing. And I believe the official definition is co-sleeping is if your kids are sleeping in the same room with you, but in different areas, like in their own bassinet, or if a crib's in your room, something like that. And bed sharing is when they're physically in bed with you. Okay, so two different things. There is a study that came out from an academic journal that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. It's very Latin-y, and I'm going to mess it up. And the study basically found that far more mothers who share their bed at night with their baby are still breastfeeding at 6 months. And let's face it, as a breastfeeding mom, it really does make sense. I mean, not that I'm advocating for this, but I will say that I did bed share with 2 of my 4 kids. I chose not to do it with my twins because I really couldn't keep track of 2 babies in a bed plus my husband, but I did it for convenience purposes. I was trying to feed my babies, and you know how it is, like in the middle of the night, it's like, are you going to go up and go to a completely different room, or are you just going to roll over and try to side nurse? Now, fortunately, side nursing worked really well for me, and so that's what I did. Again, not advocating for it, but just saying that's what I did. But it also came for me. I have a lot of people in my family that are first responders, and it came with a lot of opposition from family. Said, you're doing what? How could you possibly do that? The baby could suffocate, or you could accidentally strangle the baby, or SIDS is a big concern too. And so I understand this back and forth with it, because if more and more moms are doing it, I have friends and family that go out and see, unfortunately, babies pass and have to, deal with that situation of grieving parents and babies passing because of an accident, And so I understand where these two collide. And honestly, I don't think we're going to see any real relief from this anytime soon, especially as we see breastfeeding rates increase. But Priya, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think this is really a personal decision for the mom and the dad. From a cultural aspect, I shared my bed with my babies, all 3 of them, when they were born, and it was convenient for me. In addition to my baby not crying all through the night because they were right next to me, it was convenient because I was breastfeeding on the hour, every hour for them when they were just born. So it reduced my stress levels knowing that they were right there and I could just roll over and do that. But again, there is liability, and there is, the dangers of co-sleeping. And, really I would recommend to any moms listening to this that they talk to their pediatricians, talk to their GYNs, other moms out there, get lots of advice, make sure you educate yourself before you make the decision. And make sure that both your partner and you are in agreement with it. And just take the precautions that you need to make sure your child is safe.
Absolutely. Big disclaimer. We are not advocating for it.
It's your decision.
It's your decision.
Just make sure you're educated.
Exactly.
Today we're learning all about WIC, women, infants, and children. You've probably heard of WIC before, but didn't know exactly what they do, and how do they help breastfeeding and pumping moms all over the country. Joining us today is Donna Bister, the National WIC Association Board Chair and Vermont WIC Director, and Karan Saluja of the Public Health Foundation WIC in Los Angeles, which is also the largest WIC agency in the country. So let's give our listeners a brief history of WIC. Donna, when was it created and why?
So WIC was created in the early 1970s as part of a whole suite of war on poverty programs, including Head Start, Vista, AmeriCorps, community action programs, and lots of other programs that were all designed to help families, lift families out of poverty. And WIC in particular started because of congressional kind of field trip to some lower income areas in the country where they found what they called unthinkable poverty, and especially infants and children close to starvation. And WIC was started with the purpose of identifying that women, infants, and children are at special risk for both physical and mental health if they have inadequate nutrition or health care or both. So WIC was designed to support families and provide supplemental foods and nutrition education in conjunction with good health care during times of critical growth and development, with the end goal of preventing the occurrence of health problems and improving the health status of young families. And, I can almost not read that statement from the authorizing legislation without crying. It makes me feel like what we do is so important for families. A lot of things have changed since then, but families still need that kind of support.
Sure, of course.
Today, who oversees WIC? How is it structured, and how does it receive funding?
WIC is a federal public health nutrition program, so the money comes from the feds to the states. There are 90 state agencies, geographic states, Indian tribal organizations, territories, and the District of Columbia. And those states, in turn, support about 1,900 local agencies, and those local agencies support about 10,000 clinics all over the country. So wherever you are, there's probably a WIC clinic near you. Those clinics and local agencies may be in community health centers or in hospitals or community action agencies, Head Start agencies, standalone nonprofits. There are lots of different models out there. And the funding comes from the state to the locals, and that's how we're able to provide services to everyone.
Who typically gets WIC, and what are the eligibility requirements? Like the categories, residential, income, nutritional risk?
So WIC is set up to serve pregnant women, new moms, infants, and children up to their up to their 5th birthday. And dads, grandparents, foster parents, guardians can also apply for children who are in their care. Families need to live in the area where their clinic is, so folks are served in their area of residence. There's an income guideline, which is 185% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is a little under $45,000 for a family of 4 this year. Families that participate in the federal SNAP, used to be food stamp program, or Medicaid or certain other programs, are considered to be financially eligible for WIC without any other income screening. And the last eligibility criteria is a nutritional or medical reason for needing WIC, either foods or referral and education services. And that could be as simple as not meeting the dietary guidelines every day, or it could be a complicated high-risk pregnancy or a chronic health condition, or anything in between.
All right. So, Karen, how would a woman apply to receive WIC services? How does that work?
So the best, simplest way that it works is really by word of mouth. Somebody getting WIC tells her friend, who tells a friend. In the Los Angeles, Orange County area in California, WIC is so well known that word of mouth is sort of our best referral. We also do a lot of outreach to doctors' offices, especially, the OBs in the area, and they refer moms to us. And that's pretty much how it happens. People hear about us and they walk in. Our WIC sites are in large shopping malls. There are big signs on them that say WIC centers. And WIC is really well known in this area.
So can you go to any of those places that have those signs that you were talking about to be able to apply?
Yes, you can. And given our wonderful age of technology, a lot of our mothers go online. They Google WIC. They find our website. We have a beautiful website, phfewic.org. And right on there, on the left-hand side, is a big button that says apply. And so more and more of our mothers are now finding that as an easy way of getting on. Many different WIC programs throughout the country are doing and making it a lot easier for women to get on WIC quickly, because optimally we want pregnant women in their first trimester, because that's where you get the best results in terms of full-term birth, a healthy baby, and good pregnancy outcomes.
Okay, so they can apply online, but is there a time when they're actually going to have to be seen by someone, or can everything be done online?
I wish we could be there, and one day we will get there. Currently, they can apply online, they can see if they're eligible, and they meet, all of the various requirements of income, and that's sort of the big issue that usually comes up, because WIC is a means-tested program. You have to be at 185% of poverty. If you get Medicaid, you are eligible for WIC. If you get any kind of government assistance in terms of food stamps, a school meal, it's called SNAP now, not food stamps, you would automatically qualify for the WIC program. So answering your question, once they find out they're eligible, we send them some initial paperwork so that it makes the WIC visit easier. But they come in. And the reason that they come into a WIC site is to really have a conversation with a registered dietitian, which is a wonderful, unique service in the WIC program, that you have trained people who are basically the experts in nutrition, and you get a one-on-one discussion with them. about weight gain, about what's going on if you have nausea, vomiting, what are some easy cures. If you're worried about diabetes, you had diabetes the last time you were pregnant, that's what the dietitian does. She answers your question and she puts you on a good path for the rest of the months of your pregnancy.
And then how quickly would a mom know if she qualifies and is accepted into the WIC program? Is it pretty quick?
It's immediate. So,
okay.
Yeah, with our system, you in almost every single program is mandated by the people who govern us, really, USDA, to respond to a mother within 48 hours. So the woman will know where to go and what to do. And with us, we get an email right away as soon as she clicks the apply button. She gets an email back from us immediately letting her know whether or not she qualifies, and we can walk her in the same day.
That's awesome.
Last year alone, WIC helped more than 8 million women and children here in the United States, and that also includes more than half of all infants. We'll learn more about these services they provide when we come back. Welcome back. Today we're talking about WIC, and in this second half, we're going to focus more on the specific services WIC offers moms and children. Donna Bister and Karan Saluja are both with WIC and are here to help us understand the program better. So Donna, let's first talk about the food benefits moms and children receive. How does that work?
Well, right now it depends on what state you're in. In most states, still families receive checks or vouchers and go to the grocery store to buy their WIC foods, and in more and more states, they use an e-WIC card, which works somewhat like a debit card, but for the specific WIC foods. The WIC foods are food packages designed to meet the specific nutrition needs of young families. So we provide kind of a wide variety of staple items. We don't provide prepared food, but more whole grains, dairy products, eggs, fruits and vegetables, kind of a wide variety of that sort of product. And then families can choose from among those approved products at the grocery store. So there's, in addition to the categories of food, within each category, there are quite a few different brands and types of foods that families can choose from.
How does a place qualify to be able to provide these locations or, these services for WIC?
What does it take to be a WIC store?
Yeah, there you go. What does it take to be a WIC store?
So to be an authorized WIC vendor, which is our bureaucratic language for them, a WIC grocery store, a store needs to stock a minimum number of WIC products. So, and they need to be able to keep that stock so that families can when families go to shop there, they can buy all of their WIC items in one place if they so choose. They don't have to. And then once a store has agreed to do that, there's a training process that they go through in order to be able to provide good customer service to WIC families. WIC shopping is a little more complicated than your regular grocery shopping because only certain brands and products are allowed in WIC. They're based on their nutrition content, so we like to work closely with our WIC grocers to make sure that families have a good shopping experience.
And I know that some stores, I know not all of them, but some of them provide like stickers on the foods too that are WIC approved. And obviously that would help parents as well, right?
Sure, it really does. When you go down the cereal aisle, just think about the cereal aisle in your local grocery store and think of all the choices that are there. WIC has certain nutrition requirements that not every single thing in the cereal aisle meets. So only 20 of those 150 cereals are WIC eligible. So having the product labeled can really help families to choose. Also, many states use a WIC shopper app, so a family can scan the barcode on the product and determine whether or not the state approves it for them.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's really helpful. And as more and more moms are shopping with a smartphone that works in a grocery store, so it's just a real simple way for them to check before they get to the lane where they're trying to check out and the cashier may or may not be really familiar with WIC. So.
And then what happens when they take something to the front? Maybe they think that it's part of it and it's not. They can still buy it even if it doesn't ring up as WIC, right? They just have to pay for that?
Correct. And part of our education of WIC stores is that we let them know that they need to either allow someone to buy that with another form of payment or they need to be able to remove it from their order if they don't want to buy it if it's not WIC eligible. Another thing about those shelf tags is that they mark for non-WIC families some foods that are particularly healthy. So if you shop the WIC products, you'll be choosing healthy products too.
When it comes to breastfeeding, WIC has also called it the gold standard when it comes to nutrition for infants. Can you explain this a little bit more, Karan?
Absolutely, mainly because we really subscribe to that. So the gold standard, we always achieve for the very best. And every parent wants what's the very best for their babies. And breastfeeding, and especially exclusive breastfeeding, is really what anybody who knows about breastfeeding aims for. And the reason they do that is because babies that are exclusively breastfed and women who exclusively breastfeed, they really meet the gold standard in terms of the protection for the baby, in terms of all of the health benefits being optimized, in terms of the baby's gut being sterile, so that this baby really, in terms of obesity prevention, in terms of IQ, in terms of lower respiratory tract infections, upper respiratory tract infections, this baby has the best outcome, reduced allergies, everything. So it is the gold standard. For the mother, it's the same thing. The exclusive breastfeeding is really where we want to strive for and go. And we're really wanting that language to come in for everybody to say, everybody understands gold standard as being, I want to aim for this. This is the best reward. And we find it's an easy way for us to explain things and for moms to get it. And I think we're there because a lot of women express the desire to breastfeed. Over 85 to 90% of our mothers will say, yeah, I want to breastfeed when they first enroll. Some will say, I want to breastfeed for at least 6 months. Some will say, I want to do it for a year. But they all want to start breastfeeding. But the reality is a little far from that. And that's the sad part that we're trying to work with in terms of really raising the boat so that our women are able to achieve what they tell us they want to do when they first come in.
So what happens when moms come to WIC and they either can't breastfeed for multiple purposes or they just don't want to breastfeed? Have you had that happen? Have you worked with moms that are in that position that, it either just doesn't interest them or there's a medical reason they can't?
Absolutely. So of course they can't breastfeed. Women who are HIV positive, it is not recommended. There are also certain medications that women might be on that it is an absolute it's a no-no. So we respect that. We have it in their files, and we will not be talking about breastfeeding to these moms because these notes go on. We have a very nice computer system. All WIC programs do. So that's those who cannot breastfeed. With the ones who don't want to breastfeed, usually there will be some inquiries as to tell me more, some probing, and all WIC programs throughout the nation do what's called motivational interviewing or motivational counseling, where it's really led by the participants. So we'll ask the mother some questions, tell me more about this. Because sometimes they say, well, I don't want to breastfeed because I've heard it hurts. Well, then we kind of talk to them a little bit about that. And a lot of those moms then end up saying, oh yeah, I do want to try it. Then you've got all this help and support, of course. But sometimes they'll say, no, I don't want to talk about it. And you know that there's something going on that's a little bit more, and we just leave the conversation there. So it is not that you have to force every mother. Now, I will say that the don't want to breastfeed is definitely one of the areas or one of the groups of people that we will probably work more with, because in many of those cases, those mothers, when they really understand what it's all about and the mechanics of it, some don't want to put a baby to breast. And it could be because of certain histories in their lives. Well, they would still like to give the babies breast milk, and so they can get a pump, and they could pump and feed the baby. So we try to work out options with that group. It's the can't breastfeed group that's a very sort of a sacred group that we would completely leave alone. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things a little bit ago we were talking about the gold standard, and I see this more and more in different types of ways that people are marketing breastfeeding. And my concern is because I've talked to a lot of women and doing the boob group for a long time now, and I've talked to a lot of women who in their minds failed at breastfeeding. It was just something that just didn't work out, and they hear things like breastfeeding is the gold standard, and because they weren't able to do it, they feel sad. They feel a little bit ashamed. They feel guilt, which is why I brought up that question about calling it the gold standard. Part of me kind of worries when we even though we're all breastfeeding advocates here, sometimes I worry that we're alienating people or we're putting people down unintentionally, because I know we're just trying to raise breastfeeding up, but that women may walk away feeling even more upset because of the way we're labeling breastfeeding.
You bring up such good points, and I can completely empathize with that because I'm one of those moms. And so the way because I was not able to breastfeed my first child, never mind what I wanted to do, I didn't. So the way our staff always handles things like that is we always reassure mothers that they did the best they could with the knowledge and support they had at that time. And that's really what a mother can do. Every mother does their best. Now, the thing that you mentioned, we don't want to make moms feel bad. I get what you're saying, but I will say to you that we have to aim for the best for our babies, for the best for our future generations. I mean, we tell people, don't smoke. It's going to kill you. There are people who smoke. I'm sure it makes them feel bad, but we don't, you know what I mean? It's a public health message. When we start framing breastfeeding as a public health message, like immunizations is, like car seats, we don't negotiate on car seats. Then it isn't about a choice. And we've really embraced this as one of the public health measures that is so critical for our future in terms of not just the health benefits of the mothers and baby, but in a purely economical term, we could save billions as a country if we had our babies exclusively breastfed to 6 months. We could save over 900 lives if our babies were exclusively breastfed to 6 months. So I understand that there is some sensitivity around it for folks, but I think we have to give people a break to say, you did the best you could with the knowledge and support you had at that time. I'm here to help you, and this is the gold standard.
Right. I'm here to help you, not judge you. That's not what we're not trying to judge. We're trying to help. Yeah.
We don't judge, but we have to be really out there to help because we have to battle all the forces that are against breastfeeding.
Moms who breastfeed can stay in the WIC program longer. Why is that, Donna?
Well, there are a couple of reasons for it. One is just to publicly support women who are breastfeeding, to publicly support that choice. But the other reason is that when moms are making milk, they do need a few extra nutrients and calories to keep going. So that was one of the reasons that the regulations were expanded to allow moms to stay on WIC up until their baby's a year old, as long as they're breastfeeding.
So after a year then, because I know both Priya and I have nursed our babies up to like 3 years. So there is some sort of, not for the kids, because I know the kids are like ages 5 and under, right? But for mom, is there some sort of cutoff point, even if she's like an extended breastfeeder?
Yes. So benefits for herself would stop when the baby's a year old. The food benefits for herself. Now, breastfeeding moms can always call their WIC nutritionist and ask a question. And I think sometimes when moms are breastfeeding longer, weaning questions and those kinds of questions come up, and WIC staff are always happy to talk to moms about it, no matter how old their kids are.
Many moms, including lower-income moms, need to return to work shortly after having their children. How does WIC support pumping moms? Does WIC supply breast pumps and baby bottles?
So WIC is sort of, in my mind, is like the premier social justice program. What we do is we really try to bring everybody up in terms of the equity issue when it comes to all kinds of choices in life, including feeding. So we really have, for many, many years in my program and now WIC programs throughout the country do this. We uphold what was in the Affordable Care Act in 2020. That amended the FSLA, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and said every employer must provide lactation accommodation at the work site. It's still one of the best kept secrets in town. And what we are able to do with a WIC mother who says, I'm planning to go back to work, we will call the employer for her. And we work with them. In California, we passed this lactation accommodation bill ages ago, way before 2010. But now that it's throughout the nation, everybody can get behind it and become advocates for the mothers, because we aren't just about giving you services when you're there. We are there to advocate for the mother. We are there to educate the employer. And then we give the mother the pump. We've already worked it out with the employer, or we've given her some paperwork that she can take to the employer, or we send them, there's a very nice piece called The Business Case for Breastfeeding. It's online at the Maternal and Child Health Bureau. I can send you a link on that. And that lays out why it's important for an employer to help with breastfeeding, how it helps productivity, how it helps them with lessen absenteeism, and a much greater loyalty. So we provide the mechanics and the support for the mother, but then we do this other level of advocacy so that her work site is also a safe landing place for her when she gets back. And this is for any mother who wants to breastfeed and pump her milk while she's at work.
So the type of pumps that you're giving the moms, are they just pumps that they are kind of on loan, or do they ever take home a pump to own? And is it electric versus manual?
So these things vary from state to state. In the state of California, we've California does really well with so many different things. I have to say I'm biased. But we actually give mothers a Medela pump, and it is an electric pump. We do not provide bottles, but we do give attachments. So the pump and the attachments are given to the mother. And we also have in California a personal pump, which is, again, a lovely electric pump in a beautiful little case. And we are able to give that to moms also. So it all depends on how many we have of each kind. But we have plenty of lactinas, we have plenty of the Medela pumps. And as we get more of the personal pumps, often we'll give a personal pump to a mother once her milk supply is established. And we know that she's in it to pump for some time. Then that pump is hers to keep forever. But otherwise, most moms will get a loaner pump from WIC during the time that they are pumping.
Okay. You mentioned no baby bottles. Is there a specific reason behind that? Because isn't that part of the pumping? I mean, it's part of the feeding process to give babies the milk afterward.
It's a good point you bring up. We actually have some very specific guidelines as to what is called a breastfeeding aid, and bottles don't fit in, so WIC funds can't be used for certain things. And that's one of the things we can't use WIC funds for. It's a very, very carefully legislated program, and we just have to follow protocols.
Okay, so talking about baby bottles. So we all know that, formula requires baby bottles. For some moms, formula is a necessity. It was recently announced that the National WIC Association is dissolving their relationship with infant formula manufacturers. Can you provide us with some insight on this decision? Also, how will it impact moms who need WIC services and need formula?
Yes, so the National WIC Association is the education and advocacy professional organization for WIC staff. It's not the same as the WIC program. So that's been a little bit of confusion there. So the National WIC Association, in its advocacy role, has discovered that over the years, our advocacy goals and the goals of infant formula manufacturers have diverged significantly, and we chose to dissolve our relationship with them. What that means is that the National WIC Association will no longer allow infant formula manufacturers to be members of the association, to exhibit at our conferences, to sponsor speakers, and have that kind of relationship with the association. The WIC program still buys infant formula as needed, allows families to buy infant formula as needed, and individual WIC programs still have relationships with infant formula companies. But the National WIC Association will be looking to provide education for our members about infant formulas and formula feeding that's from a neutral, unbiased perspective instead of from an industry's perspective.
Okay. So from mom's point of view, really it's kind of business as usual, if you will, right? She's still going to get the same services if she needs formula or chooses formula from a mom's standpoint and working directly with the clinics, there's really no difference.
Correct.
Thank you so much to everyone for being part of today's show and for sharing their experience. If you're a member of the Boob Group, then be sure to check out the bonus content for this episode where we'll be sharing more WIC success stories.
All right, so we have a comment from Tracy, and she sent us an email. She has a question for one of our experts. And Tracy says, Dear Boob Group, first may I start this email with a thank you. A huge thank you for being my advice, encouragement, sanity, and joy through the first 6 months of my daughter's breastfed life. I have loved almost every moment of it, and my daughter Olivia is a chubby, happy, and healthy baby. Olivia turned 6 months yesterday, and I'm wondering if I should continue to breastfeed her alongside introducing foods. My initial intention was to feed her for 12 months, but the journey to today has not been easy. Throughout the 6 months, I've had sore nipples plus one bout of thrush for 70% of the time. Still apply lanolin each feed. I'm working 12-hour days and pump 3 to 4 times a day. And where I used to pump 6 to 8 ounces per session, I am now struggling to get even 5 ounces. I'm always tired and I can't work out because my nipples are so sensitive. But I love the intimacy I get with her and I want to continue. Is there any encouragement out there for this case? I love my baby more than life itself, and holding her at 1 a.m. at my breast brings me more joy than payday. However, since her birth, my husband has been sleeping in the spare room because he is such a light sleeper and cannot function at work if he sleeps in the same room. Our marriage is wonderful, but I don't want to get complacent. For the relationship, non-sore nipples, working out again, can you offer any advice? Eternally grateful for your wise words, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. My name's Helen Anderson, and I'm a registered nurse and a lactation educator, and I'm one of the experts here at New Mommy Media. It sounds like you're a really great mom, and you've had some challenges breastfeeding Olivia, but you've been persistent and kept after it, so nice work. Let's jump right into your questions. First, let's start with the yeast problem you've been having. Yeast and yeast infections are the #1 cause of persistent nipple pain. Sometimes they go away on their own, but if you have a persistent strain, you should really talk to your doctor about getting a prescription strength ointment that is going to get rid of your yeast once and for all. We know that persistent pain can increase your stress hormones and really have a negative effect on breastfeeding. So if you can resolve that issue, definitely do. Your husband sounds like a great guy, that he's willing to sleep in another room because breastfeeding is important to both of you. Remember, breastfeeding doesn't last forever, maybe another 6 months. So while you're still breastfeeding Olivia until you wean, find other ways to connect with your husband. You might make meals together. You might take a walk together. All these things are ways to connect and maintain intimacy without having to sleep in the same bed together. And I know that's important to a lot of us married couples, but remember, there's other ways to maintain intimacy when sleeping in the same bed isn't an option. Another thing is your persistent sore nipples. Sounds like they're causing you to reduce your activity level. There's things that you can put into your bra that can reduce the friction of your nipples on your bra. So hydrogel pads, Soothies. These are both really great products that just put a barrier between your nipples and your bra or the pads that you're wearing. So give those a shot and see if you can't start working out again if you're using an insert or something between your nipple and your bra or your pads. Stay away from disposable pads. Use cotton or organic, clean. If they start to get wet, change them out, because we know that a warm, moist environment is good to grow yeast in, and that's not what we want to do. So your reduction in the amount of milk that you get when you're pumping, that's pretty normal. There's some great videos out there that teach you about hands-on pumping, which is a great way to increase milk supply. You basically use your hands to place pressure on your breasts and get more milk out during the pumping session. So Google hands-on pumping. There's a great video out there from Stanford University that has just wonderful how-to there. So that's it. Please keep up the good work. And thanks for calling.
That wraps up our show for today. Don't forget to check out our sister show, Preggy Pals for expecting parents, Newbies for newly postpartum moms, Parent Savers for moms and dads with toddlers, and Twin Talks for parents of multiples. This is the Boob Group, where moms know breast.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
How would you like to have your own show on the New Mommy Media Network? We're expanding our lineup and looking for great content. If you're a business or organization interested in learning more about our co-branded podcasts, visit our website at newmommymedia.com. Hey mamas, Don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.